Hey guys, my name's Tim. I help companies that have outgrown their technology. And today I wanted to show you an example of a digital prototype. I've had a few people ask me recently for an example of what a digital prototype looks like before they commit to jumping into one. Prototypes are awesome. They do a really good job at providing a visual aid for hard conversations when you're trying to discuss features that may not be easy to articulate or concepts that are difficult to think through and design. They also get everyone on the same page. There's a ton of benefits to prototyping. But if you're new to prototyping, it can be a little bit tricky to understand where to get started. So what I wanted to do is run through an example of a prototype that we've built recently, super quick. I'm not going to go into much detail, but I will explain how we got to the final product. So the first step for us is to go through a road mapping process. During this process, we do a series of interviews with our client to understand what the objective of the project is, get all of the kind of information that we need, ask a lot of questions, and get some insights into how their business makes money and how the product is going to help them push their goals forward or push the needle forward. That turns into user workflows, which is super important, and this is kind of like one of the most important parts of prototyping is understanding user flows and user workflows. So a user workflow, a good example is on Facebook when you want to change a profile picture. So to change a profile picture, you need to log in to Facebook, you need to navigate to your profile, you need to browse through the media gallery and find a picture. You need to choose that picture and edit it, possibly if it's too wide. You need to confirm the picture and then go back to your feed and check that it's actually working. So there's a bunch of screens and steps that are involved in that flow. So there's a login screen, there's a profile screen, there's a media gallery, there's a feed. And the steps that the user takes form this process chart down here, or this is how we go about capturing all of the screens and the steps that the user goes through. The user workflow is more important than the features because it caters to a goal that the user's trying to achieve. So when you're prototyping, think through the steps that users take to get to their objective. Try and write down as many of those as possible because they will form the foundation for which screen links to another screen. So that's how we do that. We go into depth. It takes us a couple of weeks to get all of this information because we build larger applications. That translates into a series of user stories and features, which are important, but less important for straight up. You've got to get the user workflows captured, and then they expand into all of the features. And then finally, with that information, I can start working on the very rough information flow or the prototype flow. In this example, we were building a mobile app or a progressive web application that would work on desktop and mobile really nicely. So I've used these like very rough indicative wireframe screens just to show the kind of information that will be featured on each page. So for the login screen, you'll see a modal with a couple of buttons, and then you'll go to a dashboard with some information and a summary of data. That will take you to 4 other screens, and they'll take you to other screens. Oops, hello. And that's the general idea behind prototyping, is to follow the information flow, which is why figuring out the user workflows is critical to this process. This is my very rough layout of this information that I'll typically do on a call with our clients just to verify that we're doing things the right way and we're capturing the right information. This moves on to, over here. This moves on to, I'll just switch back, a more polished version of the wireframes that my designer will work on. It doesn't, the point is not to make it look better, it's to include all of the features, fields, buttons, and controls on each screen so the client or the customer can get a good feel for what the actual product will look like. Styling doesn't matter, it doesn't have to look good, it just needs to be quick and nasty but show all of the various inputs that the user will be able to interact with. That's super important because this becomes almost like an encyclopedia or a list of all of the features that will be contained in the project. So you've got to get all of the fields in there, you've got to get all of the buttons and all of the functionality. That's super important. So the first step is building all of the screens and kind of laying them out top to bottom in a way that they're going to connect together. And then the next step, which you saw before, is connecting all of the various buttons and links and features and whatnot. So the customer can jump in and actually use the application and feel like they're using a working app, even though there's no code behind it. It's just a series of static images that are connected together. So to show you what that looks like, this is the finished product. In Figma, you can click on the background and the elements that are interactive will turn blue. We've set this up. This is a huge prototype. This one took a couple of weeks to set up, because you can see back on this screen just how much time and effort went into it. But it turned out great, and it really helped facilitate the conversations with the client about what they wanted, and to verify and vindicate that the ideas we had aligned with what they wanted. Saved us a ton of time during development, and they've ended up with a better product as a result. So that is what it looks like. This is a great example of a prototype. If you've never seen one before, this is what you should be shooting for. Doesn't have to be this pretty. We put a fair bit of effort into getting the arrangement of the fields and the design right, because this, for us, we now slap essentially a layer of paint over the top of it to make it look really nice. Make sure that it's responsive and it becomes the actual design, so it saves us time moving through that design process and ultimately the development process. If you're new to prototyping, you don't need to go quite this deep. But I'm going to finish this video here. The idea was just to give you some insights into an example of a digital prototype or an application prototype or a product prototype, and I think we've covered that. So yep, hit me up if you've got questions, and thanks for watching.